Hi, I'm Andy Wible, and welcome to Timely Topics. Today we are talking about theater at MCC, and we've got a really good person to talk to about that, Tom Harryman. He is instructor of theater here at MCC. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks for having me on.
You are an instructor of theater here, but not for long. You're retiring, right?
Not for long. I'll be retiring at the end of August 2020.
I'll be. And you're also currently chair of the department.
I am. And I'll rotate off as chair at the end of the winter semester.
Okay. What made you decide to retire? You've been a long fixture here at, an active fixture, but a long fixture here at MCC.
That's right. Hopefully not just a frozen fixture on the wall. I'm of an age. In April I'll turn 67.
Oh, okay.
So I'm kind of getting up there.
Even with Ph.D, you look good.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, this is just CGI. Actually, I'm not really here. I'm all green.
Makes the interview easier. But.
Yeah. I've had a variety of careers in my working lifetime, and I've worked all my life. I ran the Frauenthal Center for quite a few years, and I ran the what's now the White Lake Playhouse up in Whitehall.
Right.
I ran that for a couple of years. I've continued to write.
You still perform and write?
I still perform. I still hold my equity card, so I still hold my union card for performing. And
so you plan on still being active in theater?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Retirement?
I don't handle inactivity well.
Okay, well that's good for the community.
Yeah.
Your show that you're directing coming up is Cabaret.
Yes, it is.
Your last show as a full-time faculty member, at least.
Right, hopefully not my swan song.
All right. Cabaret is a great musical.
That's a wonderful musical.
How did you decide to do that one?
Well, Sheila Wahamaki, my partner in crime in the theater department, or in the theater discipline, Sheila is director of the Center for Theater here at Muskegon Community College, at the Overbrook. And every year, Sheila, Jim Allen, Susan Eiler.
These are all your kind of part of the theater?
Jim's tech director, Susan is our costumer.
Okay.
We go through this process every year. Sheila really kind of runs the process as the director, and usually we take the AFest, the Arts and Humanities Festival that happens every October, that is really operated through Muskegon Community College. We were talking about Richard Charles Ford earlier. That was his baby that he started.
Sure was. Yeah, you have to get that started.
But the AFest always has a theme every year. And we take that theme pretty seriously at MCC. The theme for this season was hope.
Right.
And so we were going back and forth a lot on a lot of different titles that had to do with hope and that the idea of hope. And one thing led to another, and as Sheila and I were discussing different titles, one really came up for her, and that was The Diary of Anne Frank.
Okay.
And as you look at that piece of theater, it's filled with hope. Up until the end,
right,
where we find that only one person in that household survives after the Holocaust. And as we were talking about that, I said, well, hope, Cabaret. Because again, Cabaret is filled with hope, but it's the same time period. So up until the end.
It's a little earlier than The Diary of Anne Frank.
Yes, a little earlier.
Was it 1931?
It's basically the mid to late 30s and the lead up to the Nazi Party.
Okay.
And Diary of Anne Frank is what, in the 1941, 42. So yeah, it's a little earlier. But as we look at that kind of historic era, they're pretty close in their time.
Definitely connected with the Nazis.
Yeah, and definitely connected with theme too of the Holocaust and the Nazis' treatment of the Jews and this type of thing. And so, I mean, I love the musical Cabaret. I performed quite a few numbers of it in my youth.
Okay.
And have always loved the musical.
When did the musical come out? Do you know?
That would have been in the very late 1960s, early the film.
70s.
Everybody
film.
knows the
film with Liza Minnelli.
Liza Minnelli and Joel Grey and the motion picture. That was, I believe, 1972.
Okay.
You know, but it was a Broadway show before that.
60s
Right, so late 60s,
early
yeah.
70s.
And I'm not sure when Kander and Ebb and Master Off wrote it. But I've always loved that. There was a new revival of Cabaret on Broadway. It was in Club, what was it, Club 50?
54?
Club 54.
Studio 54?
Studio 54, that's
Okay.
it, Studio 54,
Okay.
excuse me. That was directed by Sam Mendes.
Okay.
And a wonderful new kind of look at that music theater piece, and we're doing it in that style.
Oh, great, great.
And
so
so
we'll have a fresh look to it.
it's for those in the audience who are familiar with the Liza Minnelli Cabaret, this has a little bit of kind of more minimalist and somewhat of a darker feel to it.
Okay.
I think it probably is more in keeping with some of the original stories. I think it was Christopher Isherwood who had written the stories about his visits to Berlin during that time,
Right.
and that type of thing, on
Right.
which
Which it's
the
based.
musical Cabaret is based.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a
and what
show
are
that I've
the-
wanted to do for many years, and it seemed to fit in the theme, and Sheila was real interested and said, you know, I mean, this is probably going to be the last show you direct here as a full-timer, and so I think we should do it. So I said, yeah, let's do it.
All right, great. And what are the performance dates for that?
That's going to, it'll go up on February 19th.
Okay.
So we'll run Wednesday through Sunday, February 19th to February 23rd, 2020.
Oh, great. So not too far off.
No, it's coming up. It's coming up quickly.
I'm sure with, it'll probably close to sell out. So if people are interested, they should get tickets when they can.
I think it'll be quite popular.
Yeah.
The Overbrook Players and Muskegon Community College, we've never produced this show before.
Wow. So it's been around, but we've never.
It's
done
been
it.
around, but
Yeah.
it's never been performed here at Muskegon Community College, with the exception of a kind of raggedy group of Overbrook players who decided to take this on as a student project in 1972.
Was that when you may have been a student here?
I was a student here, and I was also a Kit Kat girl.
Kit Kat girl as part of the performance, huh?
Yes.
You're a well-rounded performer.
Yeah, it kind of got us in hot water with our instructors at that time, but otherwise it was a very successful little midnight show that we did.
Oh, great, great. So let's talk. You were a student here.
I was.
And in the early 70s, evidently. And,
Yeah. 71 through 73, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
I was here for a couple of years. I came into MCC directly after I graduated from Muskegon High School in 1971, and was a political science major.
Oh, you came to be a political science major
Yep.
and left a theater guy.
Well, no, actually,
Still-
I was very active in the theater here, but it wasn't my major. My
Okay.
major continued to be political science. I left MCC after 2 years. I didn't attain an associate's degree. I transferred.
Transferred to another.
And went to a small liberal arts college in Michigan, where I lasted in their pre-law program for a semester,
Ah,
and found that wasn't for me.
I see.
So I ended up coming back to Muskegon. I worked in a small machine shop in Muskegon Heights. Did another show with, I was probably there about 6 months or so. Worked in another show here at Muskegon Community College as a, just came in and did a show. And then left and transferred to Boston Conservatory of Music.
Oh, boy.
And that's where I made the step and said, no, I'm going to theater.
Oh, great, great. And so you went and got your undergrad in theater at the conservatory?
Actually, the best thing at the conservatory, which was a pretty expensive school, and so I stayed there for a year, but that's where I met my wife, Fran.
Oh, okay.
And so
who was attending as well?
She was a student there as well.
Oh,
yeah,
great,
yeah.
great.
We were both in their straight drama program. But I came back and completed my degree at Thomas Jefferson College, which was a part of the Grand Valley State College system.
I see.
In their theater department there, which, what a wonderful experience. And the conservatory was a great experience, no doubt, but going to TJC at that time, and I was hardly ever on the Allendale campus. We had a theater in downtown Grand Rapids called Stage 3.
Okay.
And I was in my last year of my undergrad, and
so you're taking mostly theater classes?
Well, nothing but.
Yeah.
And my teachers were, at that time, a fellow by the name of Mike Birtwistle was my academic advisor at TJC. He's a great guy. He went on to teach at University of Massachusetts Amherst for many years. And another guy by the name of Bob Moyer. And Bob was a student of Viola Spolin, who is kind of the mother of improvisation, of modern improvisation. And to have these guys as teachers was great.
Yeah.
But most of my teachers at TJC were all visiting professionals.
Nice.
So I acted and studied under a guy named Tom Lillard, who was a fantastic actor. Peter Maslin, who was a wonderful costumer and wardrobe guy. A couple other guys who were just fantastic.
Great experience.
What an education.
And then from there, you became a performer for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. Fran and I, this was summer of 1976, and Fran and I moved out to the Seattle area and began working in the professional theater out there.
Great.
Besides a 2-year stint in a lumber mill where I was trying to make some money, so I'd work in the lumber mill at the base of the Cascade Mountains during the day, and then go screaming down I-5 to the theaters in Seattle at night, where we both worked.
Wow. So sometimes you have to do that, right?
Oh yeah. Especially if you're just kind of, beginning in the arts and this type of thing, and you're a performer. It's not an easy road to hoe.
No, it's a lot. My brother is part of a startup company right now, and he said one of their employees, delivers pizzas at night so they can make it.
Right.
And so it's not unique, I think, to theater, but it is part of it often.
Well, pulling lumber on a green chain was not what I really envisioned for myself,
Right.
but it was great too. I made some good friends there. Some friends that would come down, and these are all guys working in a lumber mill. This isn't, a real kind of a touchy-feely kind of place.
Yeah.
But I had some friends that would come down and see me in shows in Seattle. I met this one older guy. He was really very, very different that I used to work with. His nickname was Van, and he was kind of an oddball. And I didn't realize how much of an oddball he was till he found out what I did in my spare time. This guy could quote Shakespeare soliloquies like nobody's business.
Really? Wow.
Oh yes, he had whole soliloquies down that he could do.
Ah.
So
Bet he appreciated you being there.
Oh yeah. He'd do these. I'd do some soliloquy and some different audition pieces for him and that kind of stuff. It was great. It was a lot of fun. This is in a lumber mill.
So how long then were you performing?
I worked in Seattle from 76 to 1984.
Okay.
And right around Thanksgiving of 1984 is when Fran and I moved back here, and I took the position of technical director at the Frauenthal Center for the Performing Arts,
Okay.
which I saw an ad for this job in my art search when I was, as we say in theater, between engagements, living in Seattle, and I laughed because it was a ad for a technical director for the Frauenthal Center for the Performing Arts in Muskegon, Michigan. And I grew up across the street from Grace Frauenthal, so I certainly knew the name.
Yeah.
And but Performing Arts Center in Muskegon? Are you kidding me? So I get, this is pre-internet and all that kind of stuff. So I called my mother, and she said, "Oh no, it's the Michigan Theater."
Ah, yeah.
They decided to save it and turn it into a
Used to
performing
be a
arts
movie theater, right?
The Michigan Theater was a fully rigged theater. It was built as such, designed by C. Howard Crane in 1930, but it opened on what was referred to as a straight picture policy by the Paul J. Schlossman Company, excuse me. And so what they, when it first opened, it was really primarily motion pictures.
Okay.
And it was their first 100% talking motion picture theater.
Oh, wow. So,
That was a big deal.
yeah,
Big deal in
that would have been a
1930.
huge change, yeah. So you moved back, and did you continue to perform, or were you just focused on the working at the Frauenthal?
Yeah, I was pretty focused as technical director of the Frauenthal, and again, this is pre any of the renovations. So I was, operating a hemp and sandbag rigged stage house,
Wow, yeah.
which is, has its qualities. The main lighting board was a 1930 FA major resistance dimmer switchboard,
Wow.
which used mechanical.
I don't know quite all that means.
Well,
but
these are systems that, and I mean, Brian Goodman. Brian Goodman and I went to high school together at Muskegon High School,
yeah.
and I mean, I worked on these systems when I was in high school theater and at Port City Playhouse, if anybody
So
remembers
you
that. I mean,
you know how these worked.
Right, oh yeah,
What?
oh yeah. I didn't have any choice. I had to know how these things
work,
worked.
yeah.
And we had this little electronic dimmer board that had been installed on the Frauenthal stage, that was from it was called the Little Green Acres Theater. It was Major Lighting Corporation. But they had built this kind of little R&D theater on their property that they'd bring in people, sales folks and this kind of stuff. And we had the actual light board from this little R&D theater operation.
Wow.
That once
Ran
that
the
was
whole-
torn down, it was given to the folks at the Community Foundation and installed in the Frauenthal.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, so it was,
secondhand stuff. Wow.
it was scary.
So then you led the renovation of the Frauenthal, didn't you?
Well, I was the owner's representative for both the adaptive reuse building of the Hilt building,
Okay.
from the old Folly Abbott furniture store into what we now know as the Hilt building.
Okay.
After my boss at that time, David Blair, he had been the owner's rep, but he moved on. And so Pat Johnson, who was my boss, she ran the foundation, had me do that. And then again in 1998, I was the owner's representative for the Community Foundation and the Frauenthal Center for the Frauenthal Center's rehab and refurbishment. Yeah.
Okay. And then,
That was a $8.2 million project.
wow, and it looks fabulous.
I love it.
I'm sure. I'm sure. And you should love it.
Well, it's everybody in West Michigan ought to love it, because, ladies and gentlemen, that could have been a lovely parking lot.
Yeah. We've got plenty of those, but.
Right.
All right. Well, that's wonderful. And then you ran White Lake too as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. At that time, the Howmet Playhouse.
Uh-huh.
That was when, and I left the Frauenthal in 1999. I started to adjunct here at Muskegon Community College, and I was also doing a lot of different freelance work. I was the editor of the League of Historic American Theaters quarterly publication. So I was doing some different writing work, some project work. I also served as a theater consultant for a variety of different theaters, including the adaptive reuse of the Strand Theater in Muskegon Heights.
Okay.
That still sits there.
Yeah.
That building is still there. It looks like it's in terrible shape, but the theater itself on the interior was really in very good shape when my friend Ed Francis from Detroit and I did a master plan for that. But my friend Joanne Hatch, I saw that the Howmet Playhouse had been gifted to the city of Whitehall from Blue Lake Fine Arts Camp, and I had worked up there before with Kevin Wurz. I directed, who ran the summer theater. I directed a show for him, and I called up Joanne. I said, "Hey, Mom, you going to buy me a playhouse?" And so they brought me up, and I was their playhouse manager for 2 years up there as we kind of restarted things and kept the summer season going. What a wonderful facility that is.
Yeah, and it's been redone as well.
And that's Beth Beeman and the crew up there, they've done a great job on rehabbing that space. Ed Francis, who was our architect of record with the Frauenthal and who I did a few master plan projects on it. He was the architect that did that. I was happy to say I got Ed involved up there originally.
Good. And you still are active there in terms of acting and directing.
I just did a show there that just did Escanaba into Moonlight.
All right.
This past summer. It was a hit.
It always is, right?
Jeez.
The Jimmer, right?
Yeah. So I won't give that line. I guess I better not. I don't want the college mad at me.
So you've had a pretty long career in theater and in the arts.
Well, I've been a member of Actors Equity Association, the union for stage actors and stage managers in the United States for professionals since 1978.
1978. Wow.
My first show, I think, was at Port City Playhouse. I think I was 11 or 12.
Wow.
So
the
yeah,
bug hit early, but
kind of been at it for a while.
Now, some people might say, "Oh, my kid's is interested in theater, wants to be a theater major." What a disaster! He's not going to ever make any money or do anything.
What's that Geico commercial that you don't want to turn into your parents?
Yeah, right.
And it's the two couples, or they're younger couples, but the one couple is turned into kind of the parents, and the young server, the wife says, "Oh, and you're in school? What's your major?" "Oh, I'm an art major." And, "Oh, well, have you ever thought of what you're going to do to make money?" I have gotten that my whole life.
And you're doing quite fine. It's a nice jacket you have on.
Why, thank you.
So, I mean, how has theater, the study of theater, whether at MCC or later studies, aided you both as an actor, but also in all the other management roles you've had?
One teacher I had, and actually who was an instructor at this small liberal arts school, he was a wonderful instructor. He was a theater teacher. I did a production for him of a Streetcar Named Desire. And one thing he said to me stuck with me. Because I was confused at the time, and I found out that, because pre-law, it wasn't me. And he said, you only go into theater if you have to. And that...
What do you mean by that?
Well, you don't have a choice. And it is not an easy row to hoe. I mean, it is. Especially as a performer, because a performer, you're always going to your next audition, so you're not necessarily at the whim of your artistic bent, but at the whim of others.
Right.
theater is theater is very labor intensive. You know, live performance is very labor intensive. You know, when we go to a theater to see a show, we're seeing maybe a quarter of what has gone into that production.
Right, right. There's a lot of people behind the scenes and doing all
and
kinds
it took
of
a lot
things.
of time to create it. And so you're talking about a business expense that's all expended before a penny comes in.
Right.
Right? So there's a lot of that that has to do with why theater is the way it is. When you have a young student who is interested in going into this, again, you know, the first thing your parents say, well, study something else so you have something to fall back on.
Right.
I never did that. So I really didn't have anything to fall back on. I mean, I had some construction experience and working with wood and I, because of my technical work, I worked with lighting a lot, so working with electricity and sound systems and that kind of stuff. So I'm a jack of all trades, kind of master of none kind of guy. So I did a lot of different things in theater so I could continue to work in theater. And one example...
And it's because you love it, right?
Right, because I love it, but also... and I say this to my students, I say, look, learn to do a lot of things. I had a gig where I toured all over the United States as a performer. 5 years, 6 years, lived in New York City, San Francisco, Boston, Bermuda, Aruba, had these great gigs performing all the time, sometimes up to 13 shows a week.
Wow.
You know, I got that job. I had been a spotlight operator for this guy, for the producer.
Right.
I'd been a spotlight operator for him. Then I started running a light board for the guy. Then I started working the guy's shop. Then he hired me on to be a roadie on like the second tour this company ever did. And then he said, well, you're a performer, aren't you? Why don't you audition for this? And I said, well, I don't want to audition. Oh, come on, you're right. And he had me audition. He said, oh, this is great. I can use this guy to do all this other stuff, and he performs.
Yeah.
So I mean,
you made yourself useful in many ways.
And it turned out to be a great gig.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, this company, this was in 1978 or 79. Up until about 5 years ago, this company was still going.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was a long run.
Oh, yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Touring a whole bunch of different shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was out of Seattle.
Well, great, great. So you've done a lot of interesting things, and now you're retiring. We'll miss you here at MCC, but you aren't moving away, right?
No. Fran and I are staying in Muskegon. No, we love it here. We love it
great.
here. And I'll continue to probably do the same things I've been doing all this time. As you know, I about 10 years ago, and this was subsequent with my master's degree work, is I gotten more into storytelling and solo performance.
Right, right.
And so I was
Seeing you as Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah.
and
Edgar
Christmas
Allan Poe tribute artist, yeah.
and you also do some Christmas.
I do Charles, solo version of Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol, where I get to play all the characters.
Yeah, that's great. Both of those are very good. So.
And really enjoy it, and people seem to really enjoy it. I just did Christmas Carol up in Big Rapids right before Christmas, and had a sold-out show, and it was great, and people seemed to have a great time with it. So.
Right, great. Well, we'll still see you around then. But
oh yeah.
Thanks for all you've done at MCC, though.
Oh yeah. Oh, my pleasure.
Again, we'll miss you.
I love it here.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Timely Topics. We've been talking to Tom Harryman. Currently, he's instructor of theater and chair of the Arts and Humanities Department. Soon to be retired, but he'll be out in the community. Please wish him well. And until next time, have a great day.